spoilers? Oh, lots and lots of spoilers.
There is only one way to get the nuclear-powered dingus, or NPD, and keep it out of the hands of Thrush. We have to go in, go fast, slide past the guards, sweet-talk the secretaries, smarm our way to the top, and jump through the window into a dark water of intrigue below. If Thrush gets the dingus, well, I don't think I need to tell you what would happen, because I have no idea. Welcome to Max Mike Movies, where we have no idea. Where we take a look at the movies through a new lens. TM. I just made that up. Speaking of making, we are hip deep in our new series, I Made from TV Love You, where we look at movies that had their start on the smaller screen. Now they're bigger. This week, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is our guinea pig. Can this big-budget treatment breathe life into a rather dead and mostly forgotten TV show from the 60s, or will it, too, just roll over and let its tongue loll out? To find out, we have the secret agent who is no secret, Manful Max Levine. Give us a quip, Max.
Down, 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 down. I don't need a quip. I have theme music.
Yes, I suppose you do. And I, Mike Luce, am the chief of chastisement, the 86 to his 99, or something.
Hey.
Before this gets any weirder, let's swerve
that
off.
can make me Barbara Feldon?
Ooh.
You know what? I'm strangely okay with that.
Before this gets any weirder, let's swerve off the highway of subterfuge and look at the answers to last week's poll question. Toots is no! We asked, what fictional cinematic character would you most like to sit down and have a conversation with? You had answers. From the website, Vince replied, quote, who would I have Canadian conversation and crumpets with? Not a real thing. Sherlock Holmes or maybe Captain Nemo come to mind. I was obsessed with both as a kid, and films with those characters really intrigued me, end quote. Thanks, as always, double bumpy bucks for using the website.
Indeed. Sherlock Holmes or Captain Nemo.
Yeah. Also from the site, Ned, not Cheeseboy, although he really kind of is, gives us...
You're giving away his secret identity.
It's a secret? Anyway, Ned gives us, quote, gotta agree with Vince, Captain Nemo would be a fascinating guy to meet. No one else springs to mind right now, though, end quote. That's two for old Nemo. Thank you, Ned.
Soon we may have to go find him.
Yeah. I think he's 20,000 leagues under the sea.
Right.
And I mean straight down. Yeah, he died.
That's the other side of the earth, but okay, yeah. Actually, it's outside the earth, so anyway, yeah.
Moving over to Facebook, because social media, we have Matt Reisman. Quote, first thing that comes to mind, Genie from Aladdin, end quote. I wonder if that's pre or post Wishes.
Yeah, and I'm assuming he means the Robin Williams one and not the Will Smith.
I would hope so. Which would be even weirder because he's dead, but there you go. Anyway, thanks, Matt. Dave offered up Howard the Duck. Must be
Dave.
something in the water.
Now, I could understand if you wanted to talk to Howard the Duck from the comic book.
Yeah.
But the movie?
Yeah.
Hey. Dave.
DeWeese says, quote, I'd talk to Rose from Titanic and ask her why she felt that she needed the entire door to float on in the freezing cold water. I'll see myself out, end quote. As well you should. But hey,
yes.
A week without the Star Wars holiday special is like, God damn, I did it to myself.
Yeah, you brought it in.
I'll get you, Weasel. Geneva Brunetti answered, quote, Captain Jack Sparrow would be pretty cool to have a conversation with, end quote. And perhaps some rum. Just a little. Jamie Kleinert was next with, quote, Sherlock Holmes, either the RDJ or Cumberbatch version would be great. Interestingly, Tony Stark or Doctor Strange would also be very close contenders, and truly because of the characters, not necessarily the actors, although I do appreciate both of them, end quote. Awesome.
Yeah.
I personally think a conversation with Sherlock Holmes would be very one-sided.
I don't know if I'd really want to sit down and talk with him because he'd just make you feel stupid instantly.
Especially the Cumberbatch one.
Yeah, seriously. Although in the RDJ one, it'd be really hard to keep his attention because obviously he was seriously ADD.
Yeah. But still, cool answers.
Yeah.
Val is our next participant and is still in no way not my sister. Quote, I have a bunch. Kinda hate to ride the trend or repeat myself or something, but Rick Blaine in Casablanca is first on the list. He's followed closely by Harry in To Have and Have Not, then Leia in Star Wars, note the lack of chapter number, then Dusty in Twister. For all of them, I'd love to know what inspires them to do what they do. Not the obvious, well, gee, my planet is being attacked and I'm the princess, what choice do I have? But what makes their heart tick? What lights their soul? End quote. Cool.
Yeah, intriguing.
Yeah. Especially the princess part.
Yeah.
Newcomer Roland Hardy gets my vote with, quote, Deckard from Blade Runner. Are you a replicant or not? End quote.
Ooh.
Personally?
But he didn't know. I mean,
well,
did he?
How can it not know what it is? Because that's a cool
yeah.
I personally think the answer is yes, but I very much appreciate your answer. Thank you, Roland. Dan Schaefer. Wait, is he new here? I can't remember.
We've the name's vaguely familiar.
Fill in the words. He replied, quote, I'd like to have drinks with Nick and Nora Charles, but I'm not sure my liver would survive, end quote.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I think it'd be comatose in about 20 minutes.
Maybe you could be Asta. Thank you, Dan. Last up is Charles Forsyth, who offered a head scratcher. He said, Daryl Zero. I had to look it up as I'd never heard of the movie Zero Effect, but now I'm interested. Take a look. It's a Bill Pullman film. It's not even that old, but yeah. Thanks, Charles, and thanks, everyone. You all get as many Bumpy Bucks as allowed by law. Use them in the Bumpy Hut catalog of values, soon to be more than just a rumor. Max, who would you most like to speak to that lives only on the big screen?
I would say Gus, the moth that used to hang out in the Fresh Pond Theater.
That's not what we're looking for.
Oh, sorry. What you said on this screen. That's a tough. Honestly, I'd like to talk to Indiana Jones. I think it'd be really interesting to talk to a scholar adventurer type.
Mm-hmm.
And tell him maybe buy Apple stock if you live that long.
Or why do you keep desecrating these tombs?
Yeah, man, come on. What did these people do to you?
Yeah.
Oh, you think this stuff belongs in a museum? I noticed you don't say it belongs in a museum in the country you stole it from.
Research! Look! An idol!
Yeah, no, I'd like to talk to him.
Cool.
How about you? Who would you talk to?
I don't know. I'm going to have to go with Lobo from Bride of the Monster. He has a lot of interesting...
That would be a very one-sided conversation also.
Time for go to bed.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Just straight out, that's a toughie. Captain Picard, and I can count him because he was in Star Trek Next Generation movies.
Several, yeah.
I think he would, because he seems to have a real passion for lots of different subjects, and I bet he could tell you all sorts of cool things, plus space. So that's where I think I would go.
Okay, that's cool.
But of course, we have a new question over which you can ponder. Don't worry, we'll repeat it at the end of the show as well. How much does music matter in the movies you watch? How much does it dictate your emotional reaction? Let us know, and we'll let you raid the vault of Bumpy Hut values.
Hang on, a little clarification.
Yes.
When you say that, do you mean the background music?
Yes.
The score of the movie, but not like the soundtrack?
The score as opposed to like that jukebox of tunes.
The songs that are on the soundtrack.
John Williams, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
How much does
background music, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let us know in those ways that we'll tell you at the end of the show. But now, let's get back to this week's movie, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and its trivia. The show. Budget. Let's say $80 million as there was a range. Take $110 million, which isn't enough.
That's why there wasn't the sequel.
Yeah. There would be enough if you used it in the Bumpy Hut catalog. Never mind. Since we promised from last week, U.N.C.L.E. stands for United Network Command for Law and Enforcement. So there.
Yeah.
Thrush was never defined, but in a novel, which does not at all count, the acronym was supposed to represent, here we go, hang on, technological hierarchy for the removable of undesirables and the subjugation of humanity. The whole point This is why they
That's a
didn't tone the show.
crowbar, right? They used a crowbar to get that one in there.
That's sort of the Kristen Stewart of acronyms. Oh, sorry. No, I'm not. The whole point of Thrush narratively was that they were so terrible that the only way for them to be defeated was for the East and West to team up. Now, here's some trivia about the original show just for a little perspective, and also because there really wasn't that much interesting stuff for the movie. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. actually had some episodes released to theaters as part of a B-movie double feature, beating out the practice made famous in the 1970s by Battlestar Galactica and Buck Rogers. That means you too could not only watch it on TV, you could pay for it in the theater. If you're really lucky, it was in Sense-Around. There was a lot of development for the show done by none other than Ian Fleming. He proposed the characters of Napoleon Solo and April Dancer, who would become the girl from U.N.C.L.E. The show's original title, Ian Fleming Solo. And I read one account that said that Napoleon Solo was actually a character in the book Goldfinger, but I didn't follow that one up.
He sort of was. He was one of the gangsters that I think he's the one that Goldfinger kills.
Oh, you know what? I remember from the movie, he actually says Mr. Solo.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
In fact, I think he's the one who gets crushed in the crusher.
He in the car. Yep. He gets crushed in the car crusher.
Let's pin these little old shoulders to the little old mat and... The TV show relied on a series of twists, which often included Solo or Kuryakin, or both, being caught messing up, or being kidnapped. Spy stuff, but without the indestructible hero. Now moving on to the film. The only person in the cast of this movie who watched any episodes of the show on which this movie was based was Armie Hammer. Yes.
Dear.
Armie. We'll be coming back to Mr. Hammer.
Yeah.
We'll be coming back to Mr. Hammer. Yeah. Tom Cruise was the original choice for Napoleon Solo, with Henry Cavill tied to the Ilya Kuryakin role. I'm sorry, Kuryakin role. There's no R there, but...
Oh, that wouldn't have worked. He'd tower over Cruise, and he never likes that.
Well, that gets weirder, but there was this other big spy franchise he had to deal with, so Cruise Cavill
what the hell was Get Smart or something?
I think that's what it was, yeah. Maybe it was Turner and Hooch. Yeah, it must have been it.
Yeah, that was it, Turner and Hooch. Yeah.
This movie is meant to be, more or less, a prequel or origin story to the original TV show.
Clearly, yeah.
And really, a bunch more stuff about who is possibly going to play who, which locations were used to make up what looks like East Berlin, and the fact that Max and I were somehow both in this movie, which I don't think even we knew.
What?
So there. Did you know any trivia for this film?
Not a lot. I mean, I do know Thrush was supposed to be originally... the origin of Thrush gets kind of changed around in the books and the TV show. It was originally supposed to be started by Colonel Moran, Professor Moriarty's main hench guy.
Right.
Also, you don't mention Napoleon Solo and Ilya Kuryakin were Robert Vaughn and David McCallum.
Right. Because
David McCallum, who went on to do not much. Robert Vaughn was in The Magnificent Seven and, of course, Battle Beyond the Stars. Yep.
Another film I think you and I were both in.
Yeah, I think we were in that one. Yeah, we were the little guys with no ears.
It had John Saxon as Sador, I remember that, and John Boy as,
whatever his name was. Yeah.
Well, why don't we get to the plot?
Indeed.
Why do I do these things to myself?
Don't know. Why do you keep ending up with the movies with the most convoluted plots?
Yeah. So, well, let's just say I shaved this one down a bit.
Yeah.
It's the 1960s and things are dire. A defected nuclear physicist is being hidden by bad guys of an unknown origin and is likely on the verge of perfecting the process to purify uranium so that nuclear bombs can be made by almost anyone. The only way to get to this man, who's being shepherded by some other nefarious bad guys, is to get his daughter, currently enjoying a fine life in East Berlin, out of... East Berlin, and use her to convince Daddy that war is bad. Who do we call? Napoleon Solo, portrayed by tall person Henry Cavill, that's who. In he streaks like greased lightning, dapper and well-bred with a plan that's surefire, no problem, can't fail. Until a Russian agent, Ilya Kuryakin, who I will never pronounce properly, played by Armie Hammer, shows up and nearly shoots the whole movie down. Once Solo gets her out, embarrassing Kuryakin in the process, it seems that things aren't going to go so smoothly from here on out. It will take the combined efforts of the West and the East if this little shindig is going to shin. On the West, we have Solo. On the East, we have, well, you know.
Yeah, the Russian guy.
Can these two get over themselves and find a way to work together? Can they figure out who's playing who? And will Hugh Grant somehow come out on top? And what about that nuclear bomb? And who's Thrush? Find out in this Guy Ritchie spy vehicle.
The lowdown.
There.
Not bad. Not bad.
It could have gone on. It could have gone on. It could have gone on.
Yeah. It's very elaborate. Yeah.
Well,
yes. Sorry. Did you mention who plays the East German lady?
Nope, I forgot.
Yeah, that was Alicia Vikander.
Ah.
Oscar-nominated Alicia Vikander.
Ah.
And yes, Hugh Grant is in this.
And I actually think he does fine. I mean, he's got like 5 lines. But
I'm sorry, Hugh Grant. Not only Hugh Grant is the best thing in the movie, his end credits in the titles at the end, where you're seeing pictures of the files, made me think this should have been the Mr. Waverly movie. Because, my God, he looked fast. I was like, whoa, what's this? Former alcoholic and opium addict?
Yeah.
He was an aristocrat but gave up the title. I want to see this guy's movie.
yeah. Well, let's before we get that far into our treatment, I want to ask you something, because this was an interesting one for me, because growing up, at least as far as I know, and of course we grew up in the same general area, I never saw The Man from U.N.C.L.E. replayed anywhere. Did you ever watch it?
I watched 1 or 2 of the black and white episodes that somehow got syndicated. I never saw the ones in color. I think only the first season was in black and white.
Yeah, it was.
I remember seeing one. Okay. And for this movie, I watched another one.
Oh, okay.
Also in black and white. I mainly picked it because of the special guest star, a very young Kurt Russell.
I was going to watch that one, but I had watched 4 before I found out about that one, and I was like, 4's enough.
That's way more than I did.
How was the Kurt Russell, the computer wore tennis shoes, or whatever the name was the episode?
He was a really annoying little kid named Chris. I mainly watched this, not just for him, but because the title of the episode, The Finny-Footed Affair. Because it involves a finny-footed seal. I don't mean an emblem, I mean like kind of seal. One of the things that struck me about the show is it's very slow, and there's a long stretches where not much happens.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the 60s was like that. If you watch
a lot
any
of the
drama,
shows were.
Yeah, it's just like that. Now, if you'd got to the color episodes, I think your opinion would have changed, because you have to remember when the show was made, and in the middle of its run, and it was very popular. It was like nearly Batman popular, and of course it eventually went up against Batman in its second season when it went to color. I watched it and I was like, this show is like equal parts Mission Impossible, Batman from 1966, and Get Smart, kinda. Because they started doing a lot of the campy stuff because Batman was so ridiculously
That's what I heard.
Huge.
Yeah.
And
I
don't think Robert Vaughn ever got that memo, because he seems to play it straight no matter what. But there's goofy things going on around him. I mean, they don't start label super secret spy pen or anything like that, but it's yeah. I
mean, in the show also, Ilya Kuryakin starts out as a very minor character. He's just sort of like a guy who comes in and hands them papers. Says, "Hello, I have Russian accent," you know?
Yeah.
But he was such a fan favorite. It was kind of Mr. Spock syndrome.
Yeah.
They wrote him a bigger and bigger part, although unlike another actor, one who may have just recently come back from actual space, apparently Robert Vaughn didn't mind.
Yeah. I just was surprised that as big a show as this was, because it had spin-offs. It had The Girl from U.N.C.L.E. It had
Stephanie
novels.
Power.
Yeah, it had novels. It had...
Well, the novels, I think, came first. They were like... they kept going during and after the show, but there were 24 books in the Man from U.N.C.L.E. series.
I think that goes into as the previously mentioned men's adventure section.
yeah, I think it does.
So there was over 100 shows. It used to be the sweet spot was if you had a show on network TV and you got at least 100 episodes, that meant you could go into syndication. Yep.
That's where the money is.
And occasionally you would get shows that didn't make it to 100 and still Star Trek would make it into syndication.
Yeah.
But I never saw this as a kid. Never. I'd heard of it, but I'd never seen. I had the little corgi car,
I didn't have the Man from U.N.C.L.E. car.
Yeah, it was a purplish blue car, and it had a siren thing on the top. When you pressed it, either Ilya or Napoleon would pop out and shoot.
Oh.
So, but yeah, so I had to watch a bunch of episodes. I watched one which had Roger Carmel as a evil South American dictator.
Oh, yeah, God. This one has some allegedly Japanese characters played, I believe, by Mexican Americans.
Oh, it wasn't Vito Scotti?
I don't think so. And, oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh.
It to be fair, it is fairly slow. Even the later color ones that I watch, I never watched past season 2 because I looked for a best of list, and strangely, all the best of episodes were from season 1 and 2.
Yeah, they say I read some stuff about it. Apparently, the quality of the show really dropped off after season 2. The campy part, they just got out. They went out of control.
Yeah, apparently season 4 they tried to go back to the regular, and it was too late. But not to stay too long with the show.
Yeah.
It just goes to prove that the 60s are a giant treasure trove of stuff to rip off. I mean, to elevate to today's silver screen.
Yeah. Now, the cast here, I think, is pretty interesting. Henry Cavill, first of all, I'm impressed that first you get Henry Cavill, and then they actually found one of the few actors who's bigger than he is.
I know, he makes Henry look short. It's like Henry Cavill is 6'1".
He's 6'1", and Armie Hammer is 6'5".
Yeah, which is.
And Alicia Vikkander, by the way, is 5'6". So
yeah, there we go.
They both kind of loom over her.
Yeah. I don't know anything about her. I don't remember seeing her in anything else.
Oh, she's done a ton of stuff. She's really good. She was in Ex Machina and The Danish Girl.
I did see that.
And she was the new Lara Croft in the Tomb Raider movies.
I didn't watch that one. I did watch the. What's her name? Mrs. Michael Douglas. What's her name? No, it's not her. Yes, it is her. Catherine Zeta-Jones. No, wait, it's not her.
Wait, that was Angelina Jolie.
I'm sorry?
Angelina Jolie was...
That's who it is. And they look nothing alike, so I have no idea why.
I don't know where that came from.
I don't either. I did watch the Angelina Jolie ones, and they were popcorn. They were
in focus.
Yeah. In general, to be fair, the only thing I've seen Henry Cavill do is Superman, and he plays Superman like a big, emotionally stunted, stiff upper lip guy, and here he plays Napoleon Solo like an emotionally stunted, stiff up. Like you can tell he's aching to be British, because I think he actually is.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And his accent is very much, I'm an American.
Yeah, and Armie Hammer's Russian accent, I kept waiting for him to say, yes, we will get the nuclear bomb from Moose and Squirrel.
To be fair,
he was going to ask where the nuclear vessels are.
To be fair, it's a lot better than David McCallum's.
Well, yeah, David McCallum's Russian accent was. I think it sounded kind of Russia by way of Aberdeen, Scotland, or something.
Because I think he was Scottish.
He was.
The accents in this film are, let's say, interesting. So the person who plays Gail, is that her name?
Which?
The one from East Germany.
Oh, Gabby.
I first thought, is she Irish? What? Where is she from?
No, she was very German.
No, she's not. She's Swedish, but that's okay.
Well, no, the actress is Swedish. She's trying to do a German accent.
By way of Ireland.
It was hard. I'm glad they told us we were in East Germany, because listening to her is like, Chicago? I don't know.
I mean, it gave me flashbacks to Bridge of Spies. That was a Spielberg.
Oh, yeah.
No, was that Ron Howard?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. It was Spielberg.
It was Tom Hanks. That I really liked. That really gave me the feel of being in East Germany. Although, quite honestly, if you want the feeling of being in East Germany, although to be fair, it was Vienna, it's not actually East Germany. But that after-war period, watch The Third Man, which you should watch anyway.
Yeah.
But I didn't get the feeling so much of East Berlin here. I mean, they escaped from it.
Well, they're only there for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Most of the film takes place in, Italy, I think.
One of the other big...
Isn't it Rome?
Yeah, lots of Rome and Naples. Which, to be fair, was a very exotic location then, and photographed properly is still a pretty exotic location now.
That is one thing they did from the TV show. There were a lot of the TV show was very big on exotic, at least location shots. I don't think a lot of the show actually was filmed anywhere near these countries.
It was filmed in exotic Burbank.
Yes, jolly old chap.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of that money was spent, and it does look good. And this is actually, I was going to say, another of the characters, in a way, is our director, because he usually has a very distinct style, and that's Guy Ritchie. He brought us a bunch of other films, such as Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, the two Sherlock Holmes movie, Sherlock's Home.
I think it's Sherlock's Home.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Rock and Rolla, Snatch, and Aladdin? Oh, yeah. He did the live-action Disney Aladdin movie, which I didn't see because, okay. And there's these moments where he does these cool visual things, like he splits the screen, and there's some sort of, animation and stuff.
That was very 60s.
Yeah, it was very stylish, and it was very fun, and it was very Guy Ritchie, and I liked those parts. I actually thought there could have been a lot more of those parts. That would have been better, I think. Better. Yes, that's the word I want. But, as we often do in spy films, we open with a car chase, which I thought was filmed really well, and is actually pretty cool, especially when you realize that the two cars in question probably have a top speed of about 42.
Maybe, yeah.
One of them was a Trabant, which is a terrible car, a East German specialty, which I think came originally from Russia. And I forget what the other car was, but...
It looked like a Morris Minor, basically.
Yeah, they were terrible.
Those cars that weighed like 80 pounds. And the whole sequence with Kuryakin, who they're basically playing as the Terminator... Because at one point he grabs the car by the bumper and is actually slowing it down just with his sheer manliness.
Well, again, to be fair...
Yeah, I know this isn't exactly a very powerful vehicle, but...
Both of the horses are like... But it still ends up being exciting and fun.
Yeah,
And we have a rivalry going on, which is...
Yep.
Pretty cool because they're both pretty evenly matched at this point, even though, again, Armie Hammer towers over Henry Cavill, which is not easy to do. Of course, Armie Hammer, if you missed that particular episode...
we know him from...
is somewhat problematic.
Yeah.
He has had a number of accusers come forward, part of the Me Too movement, that say that he, in the bedroom, is a questionable taste. Yeah. Very
Literally.
violent. Yeah. And there's actually
some very weird stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually some scenes, especially because Gabby's only 5'6".
Yeah.
Where he's very forceful with her. And of course, he's that much bigger than her. And because what we know now about Mr. Hammer.
It's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. I already owned this film, so I didn't feel bad watching it. I didn't give anybody any more money. But yeah, that's one of those things. We brought this up in the past. It's like, this is a problem. So just so you know, that's the deal with this film. If you haven't seen it before and you're worried about possibly helping his career, although, again, the movie's already been made and blah, 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 there is that issue. So.
Yeah, also, there's a sequence where Gabby gets drunk and wants to wrestle Ilya. And I'm sorry. She tries to bull him. She knocks him off his feet. And I'm just sitting there going, no. She weighs about 90 pounds and he weighs as much as the Chrysler building. She's not going to move him. She's not going to knock him down. The whole sort of a joke is clearly the idea is he's trying not to hurt her. But no. I'm sorry, it would be like Bugs Bunny when he goes up against the Crusher and Crusher doesn't even twitch.
Just passing by. Yeah.
I know it, yes, spoiler, it turns out she's with British intelligence, but she's not, she's not like an actual agent. There's nothing that says she was trained. She was turned. She basically ended up working for them. But so how that was just, I'm sorry, that was just done for cute, and it didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, if he had been, say, more normal sized, maybe.
He's immense.
Yeah,
he is. I mean, they make a big thing also about how incredibly physically powerful he is.
Yeah,
and that just sort of shows up and goes away as needed.
Yeah, he also has anger management issues.
Yeah, that I don't get at all. I'm sorry. You can't be a very good spy if you suddenly have rage attacks.
Yeah.
We're willing to blow your cover or get, in effect, paralyzed. That didn't work. I get they were trying to do more backstory. That's a whole thing in the movie that is not in the TV show that I remember. And I don't know if it's in the books. Maybe it was in some of them. We don't know much about these characters' pasts. They're just, hi, we're spies and we're good guys.
Well, just like James Bond.
We don't know who he is.
His parents died in a skiing accident. That's it.
Yeah. Although, let's be fair, in the movie Skyfall, they do a nice job of at least suggesting his background. They don't overdo it. But in this, we find out, Solo's actually a professional criminal. He was after the war, he worked in the black market, and he was caught, and he's working off his sentence. That's why he's working for the CIA, and Kuryakin is his family was a disgraced party member, and okay, that does make them a little more interesting, but it also takes them a lot farther away from the original material.
Yeah. Well, I think that what's going on here is because they're making it a prequel, an origin story, if you will.
Yeah.
That they can get away with that because nothing they do, as long as they don't come out and say something that can't be continued to the TV show, like, I don't know, Kuryakin's a woman or something, they can get away with that. And to be fair, as you said, they never came up with a reason why these two guys were even working together, because the show came out in the early to mid 60s, when the Cold War was at its height. So the idea of a Russian spy working with an American spy seems just, incredible. Like, why would that even happen? And the TV show doesn't bother to answer it.
I don't think so.
So here they try to, and I don't mind the answer. Basically, Thrush is so far worse than either of our two governments, that it takes the two of us to take. Of course, each of the governments in this case is also like, you will work together, but when he's not looking, kill him.
You work together, and when he's not looking, you kill the son of a... Yeah.
Was that...
Because, of course, he's working for John Wayne. Yep.
Oh, I thought he was working for Genghis Khan, but okay. It's hard to tell them apart.
It is. It really is.
There's a lot of this movie that's very stylish. Again, Guy Ritchie, I've liked a lot of his films.
His visual style is very distinctive and a lot of fun.
Yeah, I didn't see Rock and Roll. I liked the two Sherlock Holmes movies. I will not in any way be the first person to say these are the definitive adaptations of Conan Doyle's texts by any means. But they're a lot of fun.
They are. It's hard, although it's very weird to think of Sherlock Holmes as an action hero.
And I think that what Guy Ritchie does in that is he takes it so far into the absurd that you can basically enjoy these, and somehow Sherlock Holmes is not in any way besmirched, right? Like, you can still enjoy Sherlock Holmes over there.
Yep.
And over here he's like this.
And again, Sherlock Holmes is one of, I can never remember if he's the most, but he's up there in the top 5 most adapted characters.
Yeah.
So, of course, you're going to have to try something a little different here and there, or it's, what's the point? No, there's no problem there. There is some tonal shifts here that are a little... Suddenly we have a Nazi torturer.
Yeah.
That's... Now, some of the stuff, it does tie in nicely, because the implication here is what they're dealing with are some ex-fascists.
Right.
People from, the Nazi regime, people who were friends of Mussolini...
Yes, but they're fascists with a lot of money.
Yeah, rich fascists. And turns out that this one German guy who is Gabby's uncle was also, they don't come out and say, he's basically a step aside from Joseph Mengele. he was like a professional torturer and did horrible medical experiments to people. And he gets a hold of Solo, and he's like, shocking him in this makeshift electric chair, which is a lot darker than anything else in this movie.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I mean, Guy Ritchie tends to do this. I mean, that's, there are parts of all of his films that get very grisly and dark and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean it necessarily works just because it's your style. It's kind of jarring.
Also, what happens to the guy, they strap him into the chair, which has like a faulty circuitry, and Solo and Kuryakin are outside debating what to do with him while he is being fried in this chair by a short circuit and catches fire. And they're playing it for laughs.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of creepy.
Yeah. But it was funny.
And again, kinda, but it doesn't fit the rest of the movie.
No. That felt more like, I don't know, bumbling Pink Panther or something, but yeah.
I kept expecting him to look through the door window, see the guy's on fire, and suddenly hear, "Mwop, mwop."
Now that would have been a total shift.
That really would.
One of the things I will say that this film brought from the TV show, it's kind of slow.
It kind of is. The action sequences, when they happen, are really good. But you do have to kind of wait for a while in between them.
And I like, especially in the first part of the film. Okay, the very first part of the film is literally just Napoleon Solo suaves his way into East Berlin and gets Gabby out while dealing with a new rival from the Russian side of things. Very simple to follow. Once we get her out and we take her on a fashion tour or something, then we get the rest of the plot explained to us by Harry Seldon. Oops, sorry, for those of you. We get the plot explained to us, and it's like, okay, we need to get to your dad. But to do that, first we have to go through your uncle, who's currently hanging out with this woman who is an ex-fascist, and she's really horrible, but she also happens to be like a model. And she's in Italy for reasons. Mm-hmm. And then, so we have to break you into there and then talk to him because he might know where your dad is. And then we can, and I got lost. Like, I was just like, all right, who are these? We're going to, all right, we're at a party. Okay, up. He bumped into Hugh Grant, who is not there by accident. Like, even the first time I saw this film, it's like, Hugh Grant doesn't just show up. Like, he's there for a reason. But Henry Cavill has to break into this party because it's a spy movie. There has to be a high-class party where he can wear his very well-tailored suit to. And it's like, okay, here's some people that we have to deal with. And, he's impressing the bad lady. That's a good thing because she's a bad lady and I don't remember what she's for. And then later she's I don't know, Rosa Klebb or something.
Yeah, she's eviling all over the place. And
I mean, she needed a mustache because she was twirling pretty bad.
Seriously.
So I got kind of lost. And then finally I'm given enough time and it's like, okay, so this is her uncle. Wait, no, we don't need him. He needs to tell us where the dad... Oh, wait, he doesn't know. Okay.
Yeah. And the dad is... It's basically, Ray's father, or what's his name's father in Rogue One. He's off working on the Death Star, but he's
Mads
not
Mikkelsen.
Smart enough to... Yeah, he's not smart enough to put in a thermal exhaust port that can be bullseyed like a womp rat.
Yeah. Yeah.
But...
so they eventually make their... Somehow, Gabby's presence doesn't set off any alarms. Everyone's just glad to see her.
Yeah.
I guess.
That was kind of odd.
But whatever. And she's with Napoleon... No, she's with
Kuryakin. She's supposed to be his fiancé.
And he's supposed to be an architect, which literally fools nobody.
Yes.
Which,
hello, I'm an architect bodybuilder giant.
Boy, you're awfully tall for an architect. I think somebody actually says something like that.
Yeah.
To be fair, and I was not prepared for this when I did my research and watched the TV show, all 4 episodes I watched, nobody buys Napoleon Solo's cover. He gets caught every time. And so does Kuryakin. He also gets caught. Like, that was part of the show. Like, they actually, he's kidnapped. Now he's kidnapped. Or they literally let Solo walk through until somebody says, yes, Mr. Solo, give me back the secret doohickey. And he's just like, and Solo's always surprised. He's like, huh?
And we've captured your son, Han.
Yeah, so that, to be fair, was also brought into the movie from the TV show. But I think that if you don't know anything about the TV show, and I'm going to guess 99% of the audience for this film really was not familiar with the TV show.
Probably not.
That would seem weird. Like, it's
Yeah.
sort of like, why did anybody
like
ever fall for James Bond? We don't know. Especially since he never bothered to use a code name. It's like,
Yeah. Well, no. Remember, he was Peter Franks in
that's right.
Diamonds Are Forever. But yes, and also he's apparently like the best known spy in the world.
That's
like
what I want to be, the
correct-
most famous secret agent. Oh.
Yeah. I do have to say, one thing that Henry Cavill really kind of nails is that he does the same kind of Robert Vaughn swagger smugness that Vaughn brought to the same part. That just very sort of, my God, I'm handsome.
He is chiseled.
Yeah, and Robert Vaughn, though, there was always, I thought something strange looking about Robert Vaughn. Like the top part of his face is too big for the bottom part.
Well, he does have a very large forehead, but I don't know. I always liked Robert Vaughn. He could always just sort of waltz into a part and then waltz back out again.
Yeah.
He had a kind of grace, I think.
He did. And I think Cavill brings that across. Now, Hammer's version of Kuryakin is very different. Because first off, David McCallum was a whisper-thin lad and not physically imposing at all.
No.
And here it's just like, Kuryakin smash!
Not like Kuryakin when Kuryakin angry. Time for go to bed.
Tor Kuryakin, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, so he's got daddy issues because, whatever.
His father was disgraced. But they also go out of their way to show, oh no, he's not just a bunch of dumb muscle. He's like really intelligent
and he's very capable. Yeah, capable.
And he knows about fashion.
Yeah, because the Russian man would not take his fiancée wearing this bag. Okay, whatever.
No, you wear the Dior with the Prada or whatever it was. He said.
I think it's the lime with the coconut, but then you drink it all up.
I gotta ask, what was all that with the two of them arguing about clothes so much?
I think it's to make it seem like more of a buddy film.
Is it just me, or was there some kind of very slight gay coding in this?
I'm going to go with no. Now, to be fair, my radar's not always very good, but I didn't pick up on it. In fact, one of my comments was, there's no chemistry between any of the characters in this film.
That was kind of a problem because obviously there's supposed to be some between Gabby and Kuryakin.
Yeah.
And they throw it at you, and it doesn't really stick.
We're in love. It says so right here.
Or not even in love, but like, oh, there's so much sexual tension between us.
Yeah.
It's in the stage directions and everything.
Gasp.
And again, I think I like Alicia Vikander. I think she's probably one of the best actors in this movie.
She's also the most 60s looking of everybody.
She really gets the look, nails the look. She looks like she just stepped out of an issue of Maude. But she doesn't have chemistry with either of them.
No.
And the idea at first, I think, is, there's going to be like a sort of love triangle or like something going on. And you're just like, nope. No, nothing.
I think there's not much of an attempt to make a relationship between her and Solo, which is fine.
Yeah.
And there is the one with Kuryakin, which, it's one of those things where mathematically it works out as a proof, but you don't really feel it very much.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we're supposed to do a Butch and Sundance with Kuryakin and Solo, and mostly the closest I can get is a grudging respect. That's about it, which is still pretty tepid, especially on Cavill's side.
Yeah, they try to have some nice moments, like when Solo gets Kuryakin's father's watch back. Mm-hmm. But even then that happens, it's like, oh, that was nice.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be a big payoff moment. And I didn't think it worked.
No. One of the things I remember when I saw this in the theater is that I really liked was that they kept the movie in the 60s. And I thought that worked really well because I got to say, with today's technology, it's really hard to get away with anything because, cell phones and GPS and actual spy satellites, it's like you really can't get anywhere or do anything and get away with anything. Whereas the tech in this film, with one exception, seems to be very based in the 60s. Now, Max,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. You know exactly. Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. You were talking about the friggin' laser cutter.
That's one of them. The other was the computer disc.
Oh, that was not a disc.
That
was
disc.
A tape.
They
but
said
it's a
disc.
Tape. They did say disc. It was a tape.
They said backup. No, don't back up.
Yeah, it was a tape inside this weird little case.
Yeah.
I didn't remember about a computer disc, and I'm saying, did a computer what now? Yeah, no, it was a tape. I'm all right. It's all right. In the 60s, they did have computer stuff on magnetic tape.
Yep.
But the thing that gets me is Kuryakin has in his pocket a CO2 laser that can cut through a chain link fence. And I didn't accept when Bond had a laser beam in his watch that could melt steel. No. Unless that thing had a cable running to a truck that was carrying an enormous reactor. No.
Yeah. I did, however, appreciate, there's a, quote, tracker, end quote, that Gabby has to wear, and it's the size of, a cassette tape, and it's strapped to her leg. And it's that made sense, but that was miniaturized back then. And all the little tracking devices that Solo finds on him are all, the size of a drinking straw with a big button on the end. And it was like...
Yeah, or like a Christmas tree light. They're, nowadays they're the size of a pencil dot.
Yeah. But it's also things like, you don't have a phone with you. So if you're out in the middle of nowhere and there's no phone, you can't contact anybody. And I appreciate those things from the old spy movies because it made things a lot harder. It was a lot more of a challenge. And I actually really liked the fact that they kept this in the 60s. They didn't try to update that part of it.
No, it wouldn't have worked. It is a little funny that everyone seems very 60s except for the way that they treat Gabby. Mm-hmm. No one's like, oh, we can't put a woman in danger, or what, she's just a woman. Because, sexism, as it still is, was rampant. And they did, and especially in that genre, women were usually either targets or trophies or impediments or something to be rescued.
Right.
And here she's just sort of one of them, and no one says anything about it.
You mean like Dr. Christmas Jones?
Yeah. Yes, except not as nearly as ridiculous as Dr. Christmas Jones.
See our previous series on James Bond. Yeah.
No, but again, that's a nice fantasy element to it. It's like, oh, good, we don't have to have any cringe scenes of, well, she's just a woman.
Yeah.
So, maybe not as the most realistic, but welcome.
Yeah. We should get to our little talking points before we get to the end here, if you don't mind. Max.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Does this movie capture the feeling of its source material?
Kinda. I mean, there's still the stresses on exotic locations, even if these guys actually go to them.
I'm not an exotic location, but I play one on TV.
Yeah, pretty much. I think so. It's the whole. They capture the period very nicely. The cars and the clothes and the idea of this is the height of the Cold War. I think so. Again, the dynamic. They changed the dynamic between Solo and Kuryakin, but again, like you say, this is an origin story.
Right.
But yeah, I think so. What do you think so?
I think that it's one of those things where you can't rewrite innocence, right? And the TV shows of the 60s, admittedly, mostly because of things like censors, had much more of an innocence about them because you couldn't portray stuff like that. And you could portray the women in the bikini. Okay, fine, whatever. But you probably really couldn't portray daddy issues, and you couldn't portray anger management problems.
Yeah, the heroes had to be, paragons of virtue.
Right, for the most part. Oh no, he had 2 drinks tonight. He's not entirely good. That's about as close
it's not
as you
like,
got.
the hero isn't supposed to be a reformed criminal.
No. So
He isn't even that reformed, apparently.
Well, and of course there was another show of the 60s that did the same sort of thing, and it was called It Takes a Thief, and that was where they literally took this thief, Alexander Mundy, really cool name, and they were like, look, we can prosecute you, or you can work for us and go steal things like, secret papers and stuff like that. So I think it does. I think that it's...
Okay.
The big problem, of course, is that it has so much more of a budget than its source material ever had, that it's like comparing a Lamborghini to a cardboard box shaped like a Lamborghini.
Kia.
Okay. Does this movie respect its source material?
I think so. I mean, it tries. As you say, it can't capture exactly the same spirit because it's not the 1960s.
Right.
And we're trying to recreate it. But I think it really I think it does respect it.
I think it did something that was potentially very tricky, but also potentially intelligent. And that is, it decided to do this origin story, but it didn't try to rewrite the characters in such a way that the TV show was then nullified. So it expanded emotionally on things that they wouldn't have dealt with in the TV show. But at the end of it, there's no reason that in general, you couldn't go from this movie to the TV show.
It doesn't invalidate it, yeah.
No. So I think that they did, which is interesting because, again, even not only growing up, but 80s, 90s, I don't remember The Man from U.N.C.L.E. being on ever. And I don't think anyone had mentioned the show except for, the local car show or whatever, for decades. Like, no one's talked about this. I think it was, maybe they bought it on the cheap. It's like, what else is from the 60s? No, Huckleberry Hound, no. Yogi Bear, no. Oh, hey, The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Huckleberry Hound, the movie.
Yeah. So, didn't they do one? Maybe they. I don't know. Those Yogi Bear.
I don't want to know.
Yeah,
I don't want to know.
So, I think there actually was respect. And, you could even say that they could easily have not. They could have just said, it's called The Man from U.N.C.L.E., but the hell with it.
Something different or made fun of it, not a spoof.
And considering Sherlock Holmes, like if we had to answer that same question, does Sherlock Holmes, the Guy Ritchie films, do they respect their source material? So, last is, and I think we know the answer to this, pretty obvious. Does this movie take advantage of the fact that it's a movie and not just an episode?
Oh, big time. Big time. This is so much larger scale and, as you say, actual money on the screen. Yeah. No question.
And for those of you who haven't been to Italy, when I went, we started off in Rome. I thought it's in a European city. It's been around forever. Of course, it's built up and there's skyscrapers because that's what happens. Yeah, the Colosseum's still there, but it's nestled into these. No, there are huge parts of Italy that have not changed in hundreds of years, and they look fantastic. So I totally get why they picked Rome. And I'm sure that if back in the 60s, they could have afforded to go to Rome at all, they would have done that. Instead, they just said, hey, Luigi, send us some 16 millimeter footage. And he did. So, I think so. I've got through most of my notes. How about you?
I got one. This is just a public service announcement. If you are in a vehicle that goes into the water, don't roll the windows up, which is what Solo does when he's in a truck and it goes off a pier. You want the windows down so the water will fill the cab, so the pressure will be equalized so you can open the doors. Because if you go in the water, you may not be able to unroll the windows afterwards. The pressure on the windows, on the glass, will be too great.
Well,
so don't be like Napoleon, kids.
I might disagree with you. And the reason I might disagree is because the Mythbusters, when they did it, what Adam Savage did was he said, what you need to do, you have to do, because of the pressure of the water, you can't open the door. If there's air in the car, you can't open the door. The pressure on the door is too great. Right. But with the door open or door closed and the windows up, it gives you time to get breaths of air. Whereas if the window's down, you may not have a chance to actually get a clean breath of air. Now, he says what you need to do is keep yourself calm, take the last breath you can, and when the water's up to the level, you can then easily open the door and make your way out.
All right, but I still think he shouldn't have rolled the windows up.
Well, my question...
He was perfectly calm.
My question was, why did the bad guy not take the super mega buggy and took the crappy Jeep instead?
He only had the keys for that.
But Kuryakin...
Shut up. Nothing.
All right, well, now we get to...
one last thing.
One last. Now we don't get to...
Nope, sorry. I really did like Hugh Grant in this as Mr. Waverly, and he's way more interesting than Leo G. Carroll was.
Yeah, well, he was over a barrel. Well, when
Yes,
Tarantula
only
took
when
to the
Tarantula took to the hills.
hills.
Yeah.
Lick those lips.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I agree. I don't know anything about Leo G. Carroll, and he was, the head of SMERSH or whatever he was doing. And Hugh Grant is so... He's almost a magnified Hugh Grant. Oh, yeah, no, didn't tell you. Sorry. He's like apologetic, but still... He was fun.
I think he was a lot of fun in this. Yeah.
Yeah, he's there for 5 minutes. Literally 5 minutes.
Yeah, if that. Yep.
But now, the Spainist. No. Now,
Oh, God, no.
the Roundup. The Roundup.
Don't look into the Spainist, Marion.
So, Max.
Yeah.
Did you see this when it came out?
I did. I saw it in the theaters.
Do you remember seeing it when it came out?
I know that I had seen it. That is pretty much... And I remember that there were two very tall men in it.
Max, I would like you to diagram that sentence, please.
No. I will not, and you can't make me. In fact, I don't think I can make me.
So you're saying that you don't remember your initial reaction or having seen it?
I remember thinking it was, that was fun, and then forgetting it from the time I got from my seat to the door.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had you seen it since then?
No, not at all.
Now you have. And you've watched some episodes of the TV show.
I mean, yes, I have, yes. Who are you?
So, Max, what do you think of the movie version of The Man from U.N.C.L.E?
It's harmless. I mean, I think it's kind of fun. There are some good moments. Again, I like Alicia Vikander. I like Hugh Grant. I think Henry Cavill does okay. It looks nice. It is kind of hard to follow. And I think it's very forgettable. I can see why they didn't do a sequel. Well, apart from the fact it didn't make much money.
Would you use the word competent?
I think it was. I think it was competent. I think it was a workmanlike job.
Would you say it was in focus?
It was almost entirely in focus the whole time.
Did you notice the appearance of the Bruno Kirby Memorial fat suit?
I was watching for it. I believe there's a guy in the background at the piazza. I think he's wearing it. I can't swear to it. And it's not on IMDb, damn it.
I think we need to get its own Hollywood star on the Walk of Fame.
Well, at least we've got to get it an IMDb page. Hell, there's a cat that has an IMDb page. Why shouldn't the memorial...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Why shouldn't the Bruno Kirby Memorial fat suit have its own page?
If it wasn't for the fact that it's like $30,000, I would love to have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame that just said Bruno Kirby Memorial fat suit. Yeah. Oh, me.
Yeah, you. What'd you think? Did you see it when it came out in the theater?
I did. And I remember one of the things that I liked, and I had not seen the show then, and I remember one of the things I liked about it was I like that it's in the 60s. It's fun. It adds to the atmosphere. It helps a lot with the technology, which is, crazy nowadays. And it's used to be in the old Bond films, it's well, that'll never happen. Now it's yeah, I've got one of those. I'll just go down to Micro Center and build one.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, this was fun. I enjoyed this. And then, you, I knew that it had happened.
Yeah.
And I knew that there were people in it. Couldn't tell you the plot. I want to say that one of the things that I would do, with the exception of Gabby, who, to be fair, initially looks like she's going to be a lot of fun and then doesn't really get much to do.
Yeah.
And Hugh Grant,
wasted.
I'd probably recast the entire film.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen Armie Hammer do better. Henry Cavill, I'm not sold on him yet. I've only seen him do this in Superman, and both parts are...
Wait. What about isn't he the Witcher?
Oh, that's right. I actually don't mind him as the Witcher, although that wig drives me crazy because I just sit there staring at his hairline.
They're not explaining the wig. The Witcher.
Even there, I don't know that
he's
I'm
mostly
sold.
big and impassive. It's true.
Yeah. I mean, he's built nice. I'll give him that. He's very large, which is useful for Superman and The Witcher. But I just honestly don't think what Guy Ritchie was going for here, that buddy film, that chemistry, ends up really working. And the whole film kind of depends on it. I don't think the writing's bad. Again, it could have been a little clearer. But the two main characters don't really do anything for me. And
I think you're right. I think that's the essence of it. The setting was fine, the directing's decent, even the script could be tightened up a little. But I think the leads, those two in particular, should have been somebody else. And I think they should have made the bad guys more interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, the wife is supposed to be, Cruella de Vil.
Yeah.
And the husband is like, hello, I'm here also.
And she doesn't really do anything. She's like, I'm evil, it says so in my script. And then she's like, oh, yes, electrocute him. No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to, And then she wanders off.
I'm going to go shoot Daddy for some reason.
Yeah, but she doesn't really do much of any. Like, she's going to do something, and we stop her in time, but it's more helpful if a villain, I was going to say bad guy, but a villain actually does something villainous that we see. Yeah. You won't believe what I did off screen. Woo!
But otherwise, it was entertaining.
I would say this movie was on, if you were flipping through channels and you came across this movie and you started watching it when the commercial came up and you went to go get something to drink, you might not come back.
Yeah.
But we have a trivia question, not a trivia question. We have a poll question for people to answer for next week. And that question is, how much does music matter in the movies you watch? And by music, we mean the score, the John Williams, Force theme, that sort of thing. And how much does it dictate your emotional reaction? Let us know, would you? You can do that through our website, which is maxmikemovies.com, where we have all of our episodes. We have lots of places you can leave comments, which we will get back to you about. You'll get double bumpy bucks, just saying. And you could also email us directly, because, of course, if we have a website, we have an email address, and that is us at maxmikemovies.com. Social media, we got you covered as long as it's Facebook or Twitter. And last but not least, if you listen to podcasts, which you are, you probably found us on one of the many, many podcast apps of your choice, because every day we are apparently added to one, whether we like it or not. But we are continuing with I'm Made from TV Love You, Max, by watching what next week?
Well, next week we're going to stick with the action genre. And this with a classic example of neo-feminist art, which showed us that women could be tough, yet sensitive, especially when wearing tight or revealing clothing.
Where do you watch George of the Jungle?
But this is with women, and not just one woman, with several womens, who make up a group of women, which one might call... Nope, I can't get there from here. Anyway, we're going to watch the movie Charlie's Angels.
Wait, which one?
And we are going to watch the good one. We're going to watch the one with Lucy Liu and Cameron Diaz and Drew Barrymore, and not the one with Kristen Stewart and two other people.
Wasn't one of them her father, Patrick Stewart?
Patrick Stewart's in the movie, but honestly, I do not remember who played the other two. We'll talk about the 2019 version a little. A very little.
So tune in next week, because Charlie says so.
Charlie says, love my good and plenty.
Charlie says,
really rings a bell.
Charlie says,
now we're going to stop. This has been a co-production of The Voice of Max and The Movie Wrench.